morning. I'm Anna. It's great to be back with you again this week. If you forgot, I'm Nancy and Graham's daughter and a former First Christian Church Sunday schooler. Are you noticing the cooler days and the changing colors of the leaves? Like these maple leaves. By the time you're watching this, we've probably, hopefully, had our first rains in 3 months. It sure was a long, hot summer. With all these changes in the air, we'll enter the beautiful season of fall this week. It officially begins with what's called the autumnal equinox, starting at 12:20 on Wednesday afternoon. The equinox is when the sun is exactly above the equator and day and night are of equal length. Today, we continue our Old Testament journey in Genesis, the first book of the Bible. To tell the story, we're delighted to bring back a friend we haven't seen for a long time, Moses Abraham. Welcome, Moses Abraham. So glad you could join us today.
Well, thank you, Anna. It's a joy to be with you today. You know, I think I've been invited back because my friends think I look like all the old guys, the guys known as the patriarchs that we're talking about today, guys such as Abraham and Isaac. You know, and that starts with the guy for whom my family was named, Abraham. God made a covenant or a promise with Abraham saying that his name would be the ancestor of many nations and that his wife Sarah would be the mother of nations and there will be kings among her descendants. So our story starts in the land of Canaan, where Abraham and Sarah, at God's direction, have moved. Today, present day, Israel, northwestern Jordan, and some parts of Syria are what in ancient times was known as Canaan. Now, our story. He was very old now, but Abraham's hope was renewed. But the aging Sarah grew more scornful. "Don't you men understand anything?" she said. "Don't you know that I am past the years when I can have children? Oh my goodness, it's time to give up dreaming." But then, when hope should have died, the Lord's promise came true. Sarah became pregnant and she bore Abraham a son. The boy was named Isaac, which means "he laughs." Sarah said, God has brought me joy and laughter. Everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Some years after Isaac was born, God tested Abraham. Now let me interrupt here to say one thing. I think this was an awful, terrible, stupid test. So shame on you, God. Anyway, here's the story. "Take your son," God said, "your only son, whom you love so much. Go to a mountain that I will show you, and there on the mountain, sacrifice him to me." On the mountain, Abraham built a stone altar and arranged the wood on it. Then he snatched his son, gripped him, and bound him. Isaac watched with wild eyes as his father grew closer. But an angel's voice rang out, "Abraham, Abraham." "Yes, here I am," Abraham replied. "Do not hurt the boy. Do not touch him. You have shown that you are ready to obey God." Abraham looked around. He saw a ram with its horns caught in a bush. With trembling hands, he untied his son and left him, sobbing wretchedly on the ground. Then he went and took the ram and sacrificed it as a sacrifice to God. As the flames died down, he drew Isaac close to his side. "My son," he said, "in my faltering ways, I have always tried to listen to God. Today I have learned something new, and so I will give this place a name to help me remember what that is. I will call this place the Lord Provides." When Isaac was a grown man, Abraham sent a servant back to his own people to seek a bride. It was soon arranged for Isaac to marry Rebekah. She bore him twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau, the firstborn of the twins, grew to be a hunter. His father admired him for his skill and was proud of his strong, wild-looking son with streaming red hair and flowing beard. Jacob was different, smooth-skinned, clever with words, and happy to stay at home. Jacob was the one his mother preferred. One day, when Jacob was cooking bean soup, Esau returned from hunting. "Let me have some of that soup right now," he growled. "I'm dying of hunger." "Only if you give me rights you have as the firstborn son," replied the silver-tongued Jacob. "All right, if you want them, you can have them." "I'll die if I don't eat," grumbled Esau, and he made the promise that Jacob so desired. Next week, we'll do the rest of the story. Now, we're going to have communion, followed by a song I think most of you know.
God's love made visible. That's what we have here at the communion table. Each week, we invite everyone to join us in sharing the bread and the juice. We remember God's love that is compassionate, forgiving, everlasting, justice-seeking. Jesus shared the feast of love with his disciples. He took bread, he blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. He took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them. We eat and drink in remembrance of a love that's everlasting and knows no bounds. God's love made visible.
Now, for our song today is something you know, the Lord's Prayer by a man named Darby Slick. He was in a rock and roll group back in the 60s in the Bay Area. And then he was a music director at a little church, and he wrote this song, The Lord's Prayer. Now, people have said I look like Abraham, Moses, Santa Claus, an aging hippie. They also say I look like this aging hippie, who is Darby Slick, and he's still playing music. So let's sing the Lord's Prayer. And you can get up and dance with me. Our Creator who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. God, hear our prayer, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all that is evil. Hear our prayer. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. God Almighty, hear our prayer.